Hi again. Today is Sunday, the day we just heard the story of the road to Emmaus, and I didn't have enough storage in my phone, so I'll talk quick. We heard that great story of a disciple named Cleopas and his friend walking, and then this stranger comes along and says, "What's up? Why are you so sad?" And they tell him the story of Jesus being crucified. And then he walks and opens the scriptures to them, and their hearts burn, it says. And they ask him to stay with them. And so they offer some fish, and then he breaks bread with them and disappears. And then it's only at that moment do they realize that Jesus was with them, and they start believing the resurrection story. And it's very similar to what happened to Mary Magdalene earlier that day. This all happens on Easter Day. Mary sees what she thinks a gardener in the garden where Jesus was buried, and it turns out it was Jesus. When he mentions her name, Mary, she says Rabboni, which means teacher, it always says, and she realizes it's Jesus and goes back. And then I think next week we'll hear the story of the upper room that Jesus enters into and meets the 10 out of the remaining 11 disciples. So he had a busy day on Easter, seeing Mary Magdalene and then Cleopas, etc. So anyhow, we're reminded that when we're in doubt or our eyes are clouded, that Jesus really is always with us, whether we recognize him or not. So just giving you throwing out the question of, when have your hearts burned, or when have you been so deep in doubt or any type of serious trouble, and then you have this basically an epiphany that Jesus was really with you in one of your deepest valleys. And I know for me, I've told the story, but the quick version is I quit the Roman church and went on a mission trip with my daughter and up to West Virginia, and we had a good week. And on the way back, we had a prayer service the final night before we drove back to Florida, and I know I just broke down, started crying, and I had my head down. I was holding my daughter's hand on the left side, and I looked over, and she was crying, and her friend Tina was crying, and over on this side, forget who was with me, on the other side was crying. And we all realized after this service that something had happened, and we were all had some sort of experience. So we even heard the wind, and in the church it sounded like it was raining outside, or it was about to really rain. When we walked out, it was perfectly fine. So normally, you go right back to your room, get the girls to settle down in their room, get mail shopper on, settle the guys down in their room, and it turned out a bunch of us just sat up and talked about what really happened. So anyhow, think about when you've been at your lowest, and did you realize that Christ was with you or not? And ponder those things, but also be ready for him, because God just shows up a lot of times when we don't even know it. So God bless you, and hope you have a great week, and stay safe, stay connected.